From NBC News, this is Today.
General Josiah Bunting is the superintendent at VMI. He's in his office in Lexington, Virginia. General, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
The lawsuit was beginning to make its way through the courts and eventually all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court.
I'll never forget being in my high school JROTC classroom when we were watching a news report about the Virginia Military Institute decision.
There are no longer any state-funded colleges in America that refuse women applicants.
Good evening. Topping our news tonight, VMI takes a huge step into its co-educational future.
And I'll never forget turning around and listening to the men in the class say things like, well, you know, women don't belong, women aren't as smart, they're not as strong. And I looked at those boys and I said, I don't agree. And actually, I'm gonna go to Virginia Military Institute and I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna graduate.
And I was set on going to a service academy. But I got this letter from VMI, and so my mother and I took a trip, had a fantastic visit at VMI, and I took my mother to a restaurant after the weekend was over, and I just looked at her and I said, I can do this. She almost had a heart attack. She was seriously concerned for my well-being. She says, you know, listen, this is not going to be easy.
By this time next year, women on post at VMI may not get a second look. They got a lot of looks today, in addition to some curious upperclassmen.
In 1997, when the first women were coming to VMI, Colonel Mike Bissell, who was the architect of the VMI assimilation program, hired me to assist him with the assimilation plan. The plan really took us a year to implement. We went over everything that went on at VMI.
I spent a large amount of my cadetship my junior year being gone, traveling to Norwich, the New Mexico Military Institute, Texas A&M, to ensure that we were learning from, best practices, lessons learned.
Since the decision has now been made in the Supreme Court, we owe it to entering cadets to preserve the best elements of the system unchanged.
I kept hearing, well, women won't be able to do the VMI fitness test. And I took exception with that. So I went to Colonel Cole, who was the head of PE, physical fitness, and I asked him if he could design a program for me.
56, 57, 58.
To develop the strength I needed to do pull-ups. I ended up actually doing 21 pull-ups, and I did take the VMI fitness test and passed it.
It was a huge mountain to climb, but once the order is given, your mission is to make sure that that decision takes hold properly and enlists the support of everybody.
3 things: you can give in, give up, or give it all you got. And I was the give it all you got mentality.
The day before we left my home in Georgia, Good Morning America called and they wanted to do an interview with me. And my mother she looked at it, she says, absolutely not. We are flying under the radar.
Our house was right on the parade ground, and you basically couldn't get into the house. I mean, it was a huge array of reporters from everywhere.
CNN's Louise Guillemot.
VMI is making history. The end of a lengthy legal battle. Just joins us from Lexington, Virginia.
Yes, a nation is watching.
Pretty much everybody wanted to understand why this group of 30 women wanted to go to an all-male institution.
It was a 3-ring circus.
It was very tiresome and chaotic, but there was also an air of excitement as well, that this was a new opportunity. This is a new change for VMI.
We were in what we used to call a fishbowl. So everyone was watching, and you had to be on your best behavior. You had to work harder than your peers at times to ensure that you weren't letting women as a whole down.
The haircuts, that should have been thought through a little bit more. I know that I can remember the girls telling me they went into a ladies' room and they were mistaken for boys. That was pretty hard for them. And I'm glad to see that haircut policy has changed over the years.
And it was challenging and it was difficult.
Some of the men didn't associate with women because they didn't want to have a negative experience with their peers.
And there were nights where you didn't get any sleep because you were thinking about the hell that you had to wake up to the next day.
I 100% had days when, I didn't want to be there. I didn't ever have a day when I wanted to quit.
My grandmother always told me to keep my promises, be true to your word, step up to challenges. Don't let people tell you who you are, you tell them who you are. So I told her I was gonna go to VMI and I told her of my decision. I told her about the conversation that I had with my classmates and I told her I was gonna graduate. And I had every intention of keeping that promise to her because that meant everything to me.
So it started to become this thing where it just rolled off my back. And now I have an uncanny ability to let things go. But it was so hard sometimes not to get into a negative headspace. While I was at school, my mother actually passed away at the end of my rat year. And it was an incredibly difficult process for me. But what I found was that I had grown an incredibly new family. Everyone came to my aid, not just the women. This specific experience showed me what the brotherhood at VMI meant. And so that kind of negated all those other things that were difficult to deal with.
For me, my dyke was the person who helped me navigate Virginia Military Institute, so I owe everything to John Chisholm. He was absolutely amazing. It helped that he was 6'5", 300 pounds, and so in order to get to me, people had to go through him. Also to my co-dykes, Derek Brown, Jeff Foy, so many other people in that room, Reed Parker, who were absolutely amazing. And those experiences that we had in that room, we felt isolated from the rest of the world. And so it was some respite that we needed from the chaos that was happening in barracks.
The selection of the mentors for our females, for the dykes, was very, very important to the success of them. We being some of the seniors within the Corps Cadets, we really took a hard look at the individuals, not just singularly, but collectively within the room. Folks that we felt that would provide these young ladies an opportunity to prosper and be successful.
You got a lot of fire in that heart right now, because I know I do. Y'all keep that up.
In other news today, a long journey has ended for 18 young women at the Virginia Military Institute.
On the day of graduation, I was actually approached by World News Tonight. I could tell you my first thought was to sort of lean back on what my mom told me. Don't be the person on the front page.
Overwhelming. I don't know how to explain it. That saved my life.
But I thought to myself, at this point, this is what success looks like. So I think this is okay.
Senator John McCain was the commencement speaker.
I want to join in the chorus of congratulations for the class of 2001. Gentlemen and ladies, I salute you.
There was a great moment of triumph and vindication and great pride.
VMI needed to change, and I think women helped facilitate that.
Today, the Institute welcomed its first female leader of the Corps of Cadets.
I never thought that I would see this day. I didn't think that within my lifetime this would actually happen at VMI.
I was filled with pride, just as a symbolic representation of VMI at its best.
It definitely struck me in a way that I was not expecting, but also I'm doing it for them because they are the reason that I'm even able to be here today.
That would never have happened if the women before us had not paved the way. Everything is different now. VMI is a different place. I think watching it through her has made that apparently clear to me.
That I know that the women at VMI now can rest easy knowing is that your time there is nowhere near as hard as the time I had.
We all did our very best, although not perfect, did our very best to prepare an environment for you all to prosper. But I'm grateful to each of you for taking the challenge and for being good leaders, good stewards of the Virginia Military Institute. And I certainly think, not by word, but by action, you quieted all of the naysayers.
Me doing this, I want females who are coming into VMI feeling more confident that they can do the things that I'm doing.
It's not just a place where you graduate from. It's a place that you carry with you throughout your entire life.
Whether I was a magistrate judge or a foster mom or a public defender or a delegate and a legislator down in the General Assembly, I use all the things that VMI instilled in me to become excellent at everything I have done.
They're just these really badass women. Now you just see how people have grown into these really mature, intelligent, citizen soldiers of society.